cold in the city. It's also cold season. So if I sound a little rough, you know why. You can see I'm bundled up. It's chilly outside. You know what's not cold though? The Rangers over their last 4. 4-0 against good teams. Maybe hurt teams, but good teams. And Devils, really not all that hurt. They're still one of the top 2 teams in the league. And the Rangers took them to OT and punched it home. Gosh. In a game that's going to be known as the Kid Pile game. We had the Kid line, now meet the Kid Pile. Gosh, that was awesome. And may I remind you, it's a 4-game winning streak since the infamous helmet toss of Jacob Trouba. That might just go down as the turning point of the season. It is way more fun doing this video, watching the games, everything, when the Rangers are winning. Even if they don't win pretty, even if they should lose, same as last year. If they win, everything is better. For all of us. Let's get into the last 2 games. They played the Avalanche pretty tight throughout. Obviously ends up going to the shootout again, which I think is kind of interesting. If you look at the standings, the Rangers and the Avalanche I think they have the same amount of points, and they might have the same, or if not, very similar record. It's cool to see that. I know the Avalanche are missing McKinnon and Landeskog and a number of others. You know, if that's their excuse, our excuse is, you know, we just haven't been playing to our potential, but we can and we will. And we just got to find that groove, and they just got to get healthy. It's you know, excuses don't really matter. At the end of the day, what matters are results. And I think it's interesting that standings-wise, we're very similar, and in the 2 games that we played, we went to a shootout and split the games. But it does really feel great to get that shootout win against them, especially after the last time when we played Georgiev, and he, like, fist-pumped, and it was at MSG, and now we go to the Avs, and I think Rangers are actually a pretty good away team. We end up getting the win with Shesterkin shutting the door and the Rangers picking up a much-needed 2 points. So that game, I'm not going to cover as much, except for maybe Cale Makar. Basically, he was like, yeah, you know, the Rangers goalie over there, they got a lot of... He likes to show. You know, I shoot a puck pretty much straight into his glove, and he does the old windmill for show effect. It's like, okay. Tell me the last time a windmill was actually needed. It's just to, like, get the fans going. And also, I don't care. Who cares? If it's getting in Cale Makar's head that Shesterkin's windmilling, he should do it every single time. Every single save. Routine glove save, windmill. Little on the ice save, windmill. And I could see Shesterkin doing that. He's kind of petty, and I think it's pretty funny. So we'll see how that goes. But I think, whatever. Cale Makar's comments, kind of dumb from my point of view, but whatever. If that's what he wants to call out, so be it. It's not a big deal. Moving on to the Devils game. Now, very similar start, but in the opposite way to the last time we played the Devils. Because the Rangers ended up going up 2-0 in the first game. In this game, the Devils went up 2-0. The first period for the Rangers really looked bad. Like, they took 20 minutes off. And I'm glad they're doing that in the first period and not the third period. Obviously, ideally, we would want a full 60 minutes played. But if you're a bad first period team and you wake up and become the comeback team that you were last year, that to me seems better. The whole team just has to work towards a more complete game. But because of this lack of effort or lack of production in those first 20 minutes, Gerard Gallant, the line blender, was at it again. You know, we talked about last time how he finally put the kids, Lafreniere and Kakko, up on the first line with Mika Zibanejad. Once that wasn't working, and honestly, rightfully so. Line blender isn't necessarily an insult to Gerard Gallant, because, you know, if something's not working, and he even said this in a post-game presser, he would like to keep the lines together, but when something isn't working and he can see that they're not getting the right looks, they switch things around. I think that's not the end of the world. So what they did was put Panarin and Zibanejad on the top line, which is an interesting thing because he's keeping Kreider on the third line, which I think is great. Again, I talked about this. He's playing with Trocheck and, for now, VZ. That, as your third line, that's fine. Because they're hard workers and they're all going to take shots, get to the net, and those 2 guys, Trocheck and Kreider, are still going to be on the power play. What I don't like is, you know, great to have Panarin and Zibanejad on the top line, but now you have Goudreau on the top line. And sure, he can be defensively responsible, but that's not a top line guy. And he doesn't produce at top line minutes. You have a prime example of someone on your bench, Kravtsov, who probably could benefit from just being thrown into the fire and being on your top line with guys like Panarin and Zibanejad, who are grade A distributors and playmakers. I just don't fully understand. I think it's probably has a little bit to do with if it's working, we're going to keep it together. That's how Gallant has been this whole year. So fine, but you're just continuing to kill this kid's development. At this point, I feel like he is a lock to get traded, Kravtsov is, at the deadline. And then Gallant goes back to the ever-fiery, ever-energetic kid line where it's all the kids, Kakko, Lafreniere, centered by Chytil. And that line was buzzing. You really saw it in the second and third period. They were generating chances. It sparked a life in this team that we haven't seen in a while. And so I expect that line to stay together until, of course, a 10-minute lapse of energy or production happens and Gallant switches it all around again. But for now, that's what we're living with. Kid line, second line. And that's way better than kid line, third line. Listen, you're going to get better matchups on the third line with that strong and fast kid line. But you need those guys in your top six. That is one of the things that I take away from these last few games here. Kakko, Lafreniere, and Chytil need to be in your top six. They are rotting in your third or fourth line. Give them the chances. If they make mistakes, let them make mistakes and learn from it. That's the best thing you can do for them. And then the rest of the lineup is kind of been set for a while. You have Brodzinski taking place of Carpenter, who was set down a couple weeks ago. In your fourth line center, you have Blais and Gauthier on either sides. And then the D, we saw Trouba on the bottom pair with Hayek for a while, which was not great. And I think Trouba actually was a part of two of the goals, the first goals against, by just pure giveaways. He looked really bad, unfortunately, for the Cap there. But you have Schneider getting a bigger role playing with Miller. I like those lines, but I think even today, Vince Mercogliano, the beat writer, was talking about how Gallant has moved Trouba back up to Miller's line. So I don't know what's going on there. I think Gallant wants to give Trouba more playing time and wants to give him that opportunity as the captain of the team and doesn't want to bury him on the bottom pairing. But then you're going to what? You're going to bury Schneider, who's been good on the bottom pairing with Hayek? It doesn't make sense. It really sucks to have a top-paid captain on your bottom pairing, but if that's the best thing for the team, that's the best thing for the team. He should stick with it. So back to the game. Go down too early because of bad giveaways by Trouba mainly. Line blender comes in, energy is injected into the lineup, and Trocheck breaking down, saucer pass, beautiful saucer, one-timer to Kreider, back of the net. That was awesome. Kreider has an 11-game home point streak. And, people are saying that he's looking streaky and back to his old ways of, he probably won't even score 30 this year. But he's on pace to get over 40, I think. So he's really not we were expecting a regression, obviously, from 52. We do not expect a 52-goal scoring Kreider this year. But if he scores 40, if he scores over 35, that is a win for us. And he is going to get close to doing that, and he's on pace to doing that. That's going to come from 5-on-5 and power play minutes that he's getting. So his reduced role to the third line, which isn't going to be that reduced because of his power play minutes, and because how I think Gallant will cycle through the top three lines more evenly, we could see him producing at that pace. And that's good for the Rangers. So they go into the locker room after period one. Clearly, they have a little bit of momentum here. They need to keep this energy up. And pretty early on in the second period, Lafreniere pinches and Keandre Miller also kind of pinches and lets Jack Hughes in. Jack Hughes makes a crazy handle move and then backhand roofs it on Shesterkin. That was really tough to see. Let's move on from that because I'm done talking about Jack Hughes except for his penalty shot, which Igor thankfully looked like he pulled a groin on. It stuck his stick out, dove, saved that. That was probably one of the biggest saves in the game because it turned the whole game around. The Rangers eventually got a power play that saw a shot from Fox in the point get tipped by Trocheck into the back of the net. Trocheck's having a great game. 1 goal, 1 assist. And then not 7 seconds later, the Rangers storm down the ice. I think it's Miller to Chytil. They make a move over to Kakko, wide open net, buries it. Finally, Kakko burying a goal. And then the kid line, the tumbling, the rumble-tumble. Lafreniere from nowhere, feet in the air, just tumbling all over each other, smiles everywhere. All of a sudden, it's a 3-3 game. And the energy is back in the building. Oh my gosh. Couldn't contain myself. I was screaming. I was elated. And then the rest of the game, they kind of just are playing good defensive hockey, and the Rangers are sticking with it and not allowing too many shots and not allowing too many chances for the Devils. We get into overtime, and we win the first faceoff, but then the Devils kind of control the puck for a minute and a half. But they're not taking any shots. They're just zipping around, just passing, going out of their zone a little bit, coming back in. It seems like they were fine taking this to the shootout or, just possessing for the whole OT without making a shot and seeing, maybe they were looking for a chance to come out, but the Rangers played well, cutting off those lanes and making sure there wasn't any chances to be had. And then the first chance Panarin gets, he gets it out, is skating, makes a good play to win the puck battle in the Devil's zone, draws 2 defenders to him, dishes it back to Chytil, post and in. Chytil. God! Little Selly here. Woo! Gosh. Crazy. Great game for Chytil. Now he's got a goal and an assist. The fact that he was on the ice in overtime is something new, I think, because Gallant has really not gone to his kids in big overtime spots and moments like that. So I'm hoping we're seeing a little bit of an evolution and growth from him in that way, because it's working. Okay, that was such a great win. The next game we have is against Toronto. The Rangers have, I think, the hardest schedule remaining for the season out of all the teams in the NHL. So we're going to really see, they're going to bear down here. We're going to really see what they're made of in these next, 52 games. It's not going to be handed to the Rangers. The playoffs aren't going to be handed to us. I think we'll end up still in the wild card spot, but they're going to have to really play well and find their game and keep their game for another playoff run. And I think once we get in, if we get in, there's a better chance, because we have that experience from last year, for us to win a round or two and see from there. It also depends on trade deadline. There's a lot that has to happen. But tough schedule ahead. Rangers need to show everyone what they're made of. Another thing, thinking about the future for the Rangers, the whole league thought that the cap was going to go up 4 to 5 million because, let's just say, for the point of simplicity, some fine or fee was supposed to be paid off, which would allow each team's salary cap to go up from 82 to like 86. That would be huge for a lot of teams that are in a salary cap crunch, similar to the Rangers, where they have 3, 4, 5 guys approaching free agency that they need to sign, and they're playing well enough that maybe we can't keep all of them because we don't have the cap space. With this 4 or 5 million, it seemed a lot more doable. Except news came out a couple days ago that Gary Bettman thinks it'll only go up by 1 million, which is kind of like what people thought a few months or years ago. Obviously that helps, but it's nowhere near the same. So now people are talking about how are we going to keep Lafreniere, Chytil, Miller, and sign all these other guys to these deals that they deserve. And we might not. I don't know who we're going to get rid of. It obviously depends what happens at the trade deadline if someone goes the other way to clear space for the deadline and for next year. But I don't want to see Lafreniere or Miller or Chytil go. And then, the next year, you have to worry about Lindgren. You have to worry about Kakko. There's a lot of question marks coming up. And I think what needs to happen is you got to get some team-friendly deals. You got to be smart about who you sign and for how long. And you got to rely on Othman coming up, who's going to make under $1 million because he's on his entry level. Cooley coming up, which is, again, under $1 million. And I think you probably are going to have to somehow get either a really old veteran goalie that's going to make under $1 million. I don't even know if that would work. Or get Dylan Garand to come up and play as the backup on his entry level. So you're going to need some cap magic to work here. But I think, I don't know, Drury has made good moves and then made some questionable moves that might have unforeseen complications in the future. But we'll see what happens. It's going to be very interesting, and I think the team is going to look a little different come next year. I just hope it's different in a good way, and I hope we don't see some of our favorite players who we've watched grow up over the last couple years go. On a happier note, maybe not happy for Rangers fans as a whole, but happy for hockey. Alex Ovechkin. He's the 3rd player ever to reach 800 goals. That's amazing. Every single Capitals game now is must-watch hockey because of Ovi and because of his race to 894. And really now it's going to be the race to 801, which is Gordie Howe's record, number 2. So, he's at 800 now. He was at 797 and got a hat trick against the Hawks on Tuesday night. That's incredible. To get to 800. And it was an away game, and people were throwing hats and chanting. That's awesome for the game of hockey. I think it's awesome for the Capitals. It's also awesome for Ovi, but it's great for the game of hockey. It's just growing and showing that these records that were once thought unbreakable can be broken by a lifelong career of greatness, by the great 8. It's the greatest goal scorer of our time and possibly ever. You have to watch. You have to. That's all from me. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked, leave a like. If you want to comment, leave a comment. Please subscribe. Tell your friends. I love this team. Let's go Rangers.